Okay guys, welcome to today's video. We're going to talk about right to repair. It's an important topic to me. If you've been following the channel for a while, you'd know this. But yeah, so today's video, it's going to be on right to repair. If you've been living under a rock and haven't heard, Louis Rossmann has actually started his own nonprofit for it and has been raising money for it. I'm sure you guys all already know about it, but if you don't, I'll have a link down in the description so that way you can donate to his GoFundMe that is funding this nonprofit that they're out doing lobbying. He's trying to do a direct to ballot bill, which would allow him to skip the whole, convincing a bunch of legislators that it's worth doing thing. So yeah, that's his goal there with that. But if he can't raise enough money to do that, he's going to just use that money to lobby and push for a right to repair. And it's been working so far. You can see a lot more news articles talking about it. Of course, I'm going to get a biased amount of that because the algorithms feed me what they know I want to see. So, of course, that's part of it. But, I mean, I have been seeing it on, non-algorithm fed news feeds too. So, yeah, but we'll see where it goes there. But I wanted to talk about something that Louis Rossmann actually touched on in one of his more recent videos, but it's something I've wanted to talk about on it, but I figured people would just think I'm being paranoid. But I know for a fact it's true. I just, didn't know how to articulate it. After watching his video and him ramble on about it, I figured, I can talk about it too. And so, yeah, I just want to touch on the fact that I think the biggest thing that gets in the way of right to repair with getting schematics out for you and me to be able to view them and purchase them to do repairs with is the intellectual property theft that is not me stealing intellectual property from having their schematic, but them telling on themselves for intellectual property theft by having the schematic out in the public. They don't want the schematics out because they know they've committed intellectual property theft, and they don't want to get sued for it. And even in a less nefarious way, they are guilty of intellectual property theft through a third party. So, they hired somebody else to design something. They're like, well, we've already used this on one thing, we'll just sell it to them too. And so two boards have the same design on them that, a third party firm designed and sent to them. So, that's the less nefarious way of looking at it. But you definitely have a lot of intellectual property theft in the amplifier world. So, if you guys haven't heard me talk about this on the channel, where I really got started on electronics repair is actually the amplifier world. I did not start in car instrument clusters and stuff like that. I started with amplifiers. I did a lot of car audio amplifier repair for a long time until I just got fed up with it. And it's not really the amplifiers I got fed up with, it's the customers and clientele base in that world, because you'd set their amplifier perfect for them and be like, yep, it's good to go, and get it in their car. Well, I didn't do installs, but they'll get it in their car and then they go, and I want it louder, so they turn up the Mo bass knob, which is the gain. They turn the gain all the way up and start clipping the hell out of the amplifier, burn it up, and then bring it back to you like, hey man, you didn't do a good repair on it. It's like, dude, you turned the gain all the way up, it's fried. But yeah, that's a rant for another day. Amplifier repair, I got out of doing it because of that. So yeah, amplifier repairs, or not amplifier repair world, but the amplifier world, man, there's a lot of intellectual property theft. And if you don't believe me, go look at the Taramp 3000 HD, I believe was the name of it. The Stetson, I believe is how you pronounce the name of the company, or Stansum, something like that. They sell a 3000 watt amplifier that has the exact same circuit board inside it. Like, everything is exactly the same about it. And then most recently, Sundown Audio also ripped off that exact same amplifier. They all three have the same amplifier. Sundown Audio is the most different in the fact that they moved around a couple of components on the board. It's still the same component, they just moved it to a different location on the board, and they used a different style RCA on there. And when they released this, I actually commented on the photo release of it because they showed it with the back cover off so you could see the inside of it. And I was like, yo, this is the Tar Amp. And I linked I posted a picture of a Tar Amp that I had on my workbench I was working on. I was like, it's the same design. And they said, no, it's not. We used a different RCA. That was their response to it. So yeah, to give them credit, they did actually put a different transformer on there too. The Sundown Audio actually is a little bit different, but it's still the same thing. I mean, all three of them had the exact same amplifier. They were all ripping each other off on it, and it was just super obvious. It was almost as if they used a third-party vendor to make those amplifiers for them, but Sundown Audio and Tar Amp, they're just not known for doing that. Tar Amp makes their own stuff. They're a Brazilian company that they do their own Brazilian amplifier. Same with Stensum, however you say them. I never figured out how to say the name of that company. They make very similar products to Tar Amp across the board, really. I mean, they do just make very similar products. So I don't know what's going on there. Looks like intellectual property theft to me, looking at it. Maybe there's a parent company in between them that I'm not aware of, but I do know that Tar Amp and Sundown Audio are not, they're not related at all as a company. And yeah, those two amplifiers were they're direct ripoffs of each other. And I know the Tar Amp came out before the Sundown Audio did. It's surprising to me to see Sundown Audio rip off Tar Amp because, I don't know, Tar Amps have a reputation of catching on fire. And that 3,000 watt amplifier, I loved working on it because they almost always catch on fire when they go down. They'd always have like a big hole burned in the board, which would make it a fun repair, in my opinion. At the time, I enjoyed those kind of repairs because people would say, oh, that can't be fixed, it's impossible. And it fluffed up my ego to fix something that everybody said it's impossible to fix. So I don't do ego repairs anymore. I do like really challenging repairs. Don't get me wrong. It's fun to do that. But I am now older and wiser and realize there's always somebody out there that knows more than you, and they're always better. So I don't like doing things for my ego anymore. Older and wiser, but it's definitely, they were fun repairs. But yeah, you see that in a bunch of brands too. In the amplifier world, you'll see, oh, these two have the same drive circuit. So a lot of times the amplifiers will have a little board that's kind of like a daughter board on there that actually runs the Class D circuit on it. That it does all of that logic for it. So a lot of times you'd see pretty much the exact same setup on all of them for their their driver boards in the amplifiers. So you go, okay, so it's got the same driver board and the kind of a pretty similar layout. They just use some different MOSFETs on there to get slightly different numbers. That way it's a different amplifier. But you'd see that a lot in the amplifier world. There's a ton of intellectual property theft, and they know it's going on. To help, I don't know if it's to help prevent more intellectual property theft or if it's to conceal their intellectual property theft. Pretty much all the amplifier manufacturers now take a grinder to all the ICs on there and just grind off, it's almost impossible to get a board that they haven't taken the driver IC masks off. They'll just grind that off of them, and you'll get so bad as sometimes they'll do it to the MOSFETs and stuff too. It's really obnoxious. Going and trying to do a repair and they've taken a grinder to every single IC. Like, in my opinion, that should be something that should be banned under right to repair. Hiding your ICs by intentionally taking the engraving off put by the manufacturer of the IC is just, that's terrible. And I don't think they do that to get in the way of repair. but it does get in the way of repair, and it makes it very difficult to repair a amplifier that you're not familiar with. You know, there's only so many different drive ICs out there, so when you start figuring out the footprints of them, you know, you can identify them, or at least, you know, figure out one that's at least a pin for pin match that you can put in there and it'll work. So yeah, I don't know. That's what I wanted to touch on in this video, though, is just quickly kind of go over the fact that manufacturers don't want right to repair to pass, not just to end their, you know, planned obsolescence, which, you know, planned obsolescence is very well documented. We know that's a real thing. And they don't want it to pass for intellectual property theft reasons, but not the reason they go tell their legislators and everyone. And the real reason why they don't want it to pass is because they are committing intellectual property theft, not because they are worried that you're going to commit intellectual property theft. Because I am not going to get the board view of a GM instrument cluster and go to a board house in China and be like, yo, make me 50,000 of these boards. That way I can start plopping all these ICs on there and putting their firmware on it and selling them. That's just not going to happen. It's not economical to do that in the first place. You know, you can get a used one of these circuit boards for $50 at the junkyard. I can't compete with that. It's not economical to rip them off. It doesn't make sense. It's not, you know, logical to do that. So, you know, that's just simply not going to happen. And you're not going to see, you know, if right to repair passes, you're not going to see a bunch of BMWs rolling around with, you know, John Deere instrument clusters in them. It's just not going to happen. The engine control module from a John Deere is not going to end up in my, you know, Craftsman lawnmower. It's you know, these things that they're making these arguments for of, oh, this, that, and the other is going to happen. It's just simply, you know, nonsense that they're spewing. It's the fact that they know that they're breaking the law, and they just don't want to expose themselves. They ought to go, we don't want right to repair to pass because we plead the fifth. And that should be their argument that they make, because it's the truth. They know that the big tech companies will all start suing each other over this stuff. And the only reason why they don't sue each other right now is, I mean, they know that the other companies stealing their designs because they're, you know, using corporate espionage to get the schematics from each other. They have each other's schematics. They know what's going on. You just can't use that in a court because it's fruit of a poisonous tree there. But I don't know. I'm not an attorney, and this is not legal advice. I'm just saying, well, we know what's going on. We know why this won't pass. And you guys all now know too, if you didn't already. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. And hey, before you go, donate to Right to Repair, because we need some Right to Repair laws to pass. If we can get them in consumer electronics, this will open the door to all you guys that are only doing automotive electronics to move into some consumer electronics and, you know, diversify where you're making money. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.